Hi, everybody. Welcome to Virtual Lunchtime Theater. My name is Judy Rawlings. I'm the Art Education and Outreach Director here at the Herberger. No, not here at the Herberger Theater Center. The Herberger Theater Center is way over there. And we would certainly be at the Herberger, but life had something different in mind for all of us, as you all know. Now, were we at the Herberger, I probably would be doing my usual curtain speech, and I would be talking all about the resident companies and asking you to fill out a survey letting us know what you think about lunchtime theater. And then I would say at the end of every month, I put all the surveys in a great big hat. However, my boss will only let me pull out 2, but those 2 fabulously fortunate folk win free and clear, no strings attached, 2 tickets to lunchtime theater. Yay. Anyway, hopefully sooner than later, we will all be back at the Herberger. In the meantime, we have been interviewing some of the artists, well, actually all of the artists whose shows had to be postponed because of the pandemic. But there are many other folks who contribute in very, very important ways to lunchtime theater. And we're going to be speaking to one of them today, the absolutely irreplaceable Mr. Christopher Haines, our technical director. Say hello to the folks, Chris.
Hi, folks. It's Chris Haines.
Thank you. But before we talk to Chris, I would like to introduce someone who needs no introduction at all. My partner, Mary Robinson. Now, she's called my associate, but basically we are partners and we do this thing together. Mary does more for lunchtime theater than mostly I glaze over when I think about what she does. But anyway, Mary, say a few words.
Well, hello everyone out there in virtual lunchtime theater land. It's so nice to be with you, if anything, but at least virtually. We miss you all horribly, terribly. We wish we could be there with you in the CACs, but soon we will be back. We will be back. We missed all of seeing our wonderful companies, but Judy and I are working, putting together our new schedule. It is our 20th season this year, so we have a very special brochure we're trying to put together, get out to you as soon as we can. Keep in touch with us, everybody out there in lunchtime theater land. Send us your surveys, send us emails, let us know what's going on. And we will see you as soon as we can. Stay safe, stay cool.
Thank you, Mary. Now, Chris Haines. Chris has been a part of the Herberger for as long as I have, I think. And all of those many years ago when we started lunchtime theater, Chris was on staff as one of the technicians. And in the early days of lunchtime theater, we were assigned a different tech for each show. Now, how can I say this? When Chris was running the show, everything went smoothly. Clockwork, everything was wonderful. But that wasn't always the case. So my recollection is that I went to the powers that be and I said, oh, I forgot to tell you this, that Chris, at the same time that we were starting lunchtime theater, he was beginning to start his own theater company and had everything in order. He was missing one thing, a place to do the theater. He didn't have a space. So I went to the powers that be and I said, what about this? What if Chris becomes our technical director, and in return for that, he gets to use the CACs for his new theater company. Now, there was a lot of other negotiation that I wasn't a part of, but the bottom line is we got Mr. Chris Haines as our technical director all those many years ago, and thank goodness for that, because he is, as I said, irreplaceable. Now, I could tell you a little bit about what he does as a technical director, but I think it would be far more interesting if he told his own story. So shall we start the grilling, Mary?
I think we shall.
Okay, you're up first.
All right, so Chris, tell our viewing audience, what does a technical director do?
Ooh, the grilling has begun.
It has.
Oh,
We are starting right there.
This is going to be awful. A technical director pretty much is responsible for overseeing the technical aspects of any production, kind of as the title suggests. That means making sure that all of the designers are getting their designs done in an appropriate time, getting them to the department heads, that sets are getting built, costumes are getting made, sound designs are being carried out. That's kind of in a perfect world. At Lunchtime Theater, we don't have a perfect world because we don't have designers and we don't have department heads to build the sets or build the costumes or all of that. It's kind of up to the company and myself to make sure those things happen. So really, my job with Lunchtime Theater is just to facilitate all of the technical aspects to make sure that they're getting done. So a lot of times that's kind of pulling out of the companies what it is that they're looking for, what they want. Sometimes that's easier, sometimes that's harder to get them to actually commit to what it is that they want to do technically. Pretty much I'm responsible for making sure there's a lighting design, how the lights are going to look, making sure that the companies are on board with whatever sound design they have or media design. A lot of times there's media or slides that go along with their show. They're kind of responsible for doing those things, but if they need help, I'm there for them to help out or to advise or how it needs to be done in order for me to then run it during the performances. And so then that's the other part of my job is actually the running of the show. So we usually have a technical rehearsal prior to opening where we set all the lights, all the sound, all the media, anything else that's needed for their show. And then I operate the lights, sound, and the media a lot of times. Sometimes it's a little more complicated and there needs to be an extra person. But most of the time I'm back there, with my 3 hands running the lights, the sound, and the media. And so that's kind of generally what I do for Lunchtime Theater.
So I think you kind of covered my next question.
Okay.
I wondered
Sorry.
if there are any particular challenges for running the Lunchtime Theater program as a technical director, or rewards. Are there any of those?
As I said, yeah, the challenge a lot of times is just trying to get the company to express what it is that they want or are looking for. A lot of times the limitation on that is that they don't necessarily have the vocabulary of technical theater terms or how to express it, and so they don't really know how to say those things, and that's fine, and I totally understand that. And I try to tell them that, just tell me, what are you looking for? What's the mood of this scene, or what is it, lighting wise? Are you wanting to be very dark or very bright, or what have you? Then another challenge always is with any theater space or facility, there's limitations. There always is, and in the CACs there are limitations of what we can do, the number of lights we have, the number of dimmers, and how we can playback sound and all of that. So it's getting them to understand that we necessarily, I like to say, if you're wanting to do cats, we can't really do that. Probably one of the biggest reward as far as Lunchtime Theater are the companies themselves, the individuals, and working with these people. Some of them I've been working with for 20 years. And so just watching, being part of those relationships and seeing those relationships grow. And then also just meeting new people, new folks that come in and do Lunchtime Theater and getting to know them. So it's really helped me over the last 20 years get to know the theater community here in town a whole lot better than I would just being a producer or an actor or what have you.
Great. Mary.
Can you tell us a little of your history, your background? I mean, how did you get to being in the technical part of theater, schooling, history? Can you share a little with us?
Okay. I thought we only had 15 minutes. So I was born, no. I won't go that far back, I guess. I started doing theater when I was fairly young, 7 or 8 years old. Coming out of high school, I knew, that I wanted to be an actor. So I went to Duke University to study acting. My very first day of class probably is when I determined that I was also going to be a technical theater person. My first class was a stagecraft class, how to build sets, how to work in a scene shop and all of that. And they needed a work study student for the scene shop. And so I was a work study student and looking in search of a job. And I thought, well, I'll apply for that and see what that's like. Thinking that, well, rather than waiting tables, I could always work in a scene shop building sets or behind the scenes of doing theater. So rather than taking on the traditional kind of jobs that an actor takes on, temp work or whatever, I would rather be in a theater doing whatever I could do. And also those are really where the jobs are in terms of theater is the behind the scenes jobs. There's a whole lot more of those than the acting jobs. And a lot less people wanting those. So over the 4 years at Duke, I worked in the scene shop, all 4 of those years, built every set, did every load in, did every strike, did all the work I could. So I really kind of trained myself as a theater technician on the side, and then was taking the acting sequence at Duke. So then once I graduated, I moved out here, and pretty much for the first 10 or so years, mostly did theatrical tech work behind the scenes, building sets, doing lighting, learning sound. Occasionally I would get an acting job, but most of the time I was working as a technician. And then fast forward to 2001, started working at the Herberger Theater Center, as Judy said, as an assistant technical director. And then also at the same time had the crazy notion to start a theater company. I don't know what I was thinking. We did our first show, I think, in 2003, early 2003, and I was still working full-time at the Herberger. So I was working 40 hours a week at the Herberger, and then doing a show at night on the weekends, and that nearly killed me. And so I kind of decided that I needed to bite the bullet and devote myself to my company full-time. So when Judy came up with the idea of me serving as technical director, it was absolutely perfect timing and perfect, it was kismet. And so for the last 20 years, I've been the technical director for Lunchtime Theater and then running iTheatre Collaborative.
Well, tell us about iTheatre Collaborative. I love the story. I love the story of the napkins, of the cocktail napkins, and when it all started. Can you tell us how that happened?
Well, as I said, about 2001, my wife Rosemary and I decided we were going to found a theater company. And so one night we were having dinner, or waiting to have dinner, at a restaurant. It's no longer there. It's called the Ragin' Cajun. It was on Cave Creek Road. And we were sitting at the bar, having a cocktail, waiting on our tables. And we just started talking about starting a theater company and what we wanted it to be. And we just started writing out on these cocktail napkins, all of the ideas and all the things that were occurring to us. Excuse me. And strangely enough, one of the first things that we wrote was the name of the company, iTheatre. And I saved the cocktail napkins. I still have them. And they're kind of like the inspiration of where the company was, or what it wanted to be. And it really was born out of an idea that there's so much more to theater than just musicals or comedies, that theater can be thought-provoking and challenging to its audiences. And so at that time, we felt like there was a need for that kind of a theater company. And so that's really what we were wanting to do was and not just challenge audiences, but challenge the artists that were working on our shows to give them something that they really could sink their teeth into and be a part of.
Fabulous.
And so we just finished our 17th season. So we will be, whenever we're able to produce, we'll be going into our 18th season.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know you do some directing as well for your company. Can you give us a little bit of info on that?
Okay. Yes, I have directed a number of shows. In the past couple of years, past couple of seasons, I probably directed more than I had all the previous 14 or 15 seasons. Simply because it was so hard to run the theater company and deal with all of the aspects behind the scenes of a show, because I guess I am the technical director for iTheatre Collaborative as well. So I build all the sets and I do all the lights and all of that for the most part. Sometimes I get some help. But doing that and trying to direct a show, it just was really, really hard to do all of those things simultaneously. And so I didn't direct all that much. But in the past couple of seasons, we've financially, the company's a little stronger. And also I've found some amazing people that can do sound design, that can do media design and do a lot of that work for me. And we can hire them to do it. So I'm able to direct a lot more. Recently directed Edward Albee's 3 Tall Women. That was in the fall of last year. And then I directed a fairly new play called Hostage by Michelle Colos Brooks, which was about the mother whose son was the youngest hostage in the Iranian hostage crisis in 1979. She actually traveled to Tehran to visit her son. So the play is a kind of the imagined meeting between those two. What else have I directed? I did a public reading of an unproduced screenplay about the death of Walt Disney, which was a lot of fun and not only a mouthful to say as a title, but that was really a delicious kind of play to do, because it's Walt Disney and he's written a screenplay, and he's a very narcissistic person. And so, yeah, I enjoy directing a lot, but it's not really, my first love, I would say.
Well, I know that both of us have, well, you are the artistic director of iTheatre Collaborative, and I was an artistic director for a number of years. What are some of the challenges, would you say, of, we've talked about this, but of being the artistic director of a company? Also speak a little bit, and I didn't remember, but about the fact that now iTheatre is one of the resident companies at the Herberger. So if you can combine those two into one answer.
Wow.
Wow, well, whatever.
Challenges of being an artistic director, there's a lot, especially when you're a really small theater company like we are. Larger companies like Arizona Theater Company, they have a huge staff, and they have people that can deal with all of the things that I normally have to deal with, or my wife Rosie does. That's anywhere from grant writing to accounting and keeping the books and figuring out the finances and the budgeting for the company, all the way to the artistic side of picking the shows and programming, getting the shows cast, scheduling auditions, and then rehearsals and going through the rehearsals. And if I'm directing a show, there's even more, challenges of time and your sanity. So it's a very challenging thing to do on a small scale. However, I would say the rewarding thing is that, when you make these accomplishments, when you do things, when you survive for 18 seasons, and it's pretty much your own work that's made that possible, made that happen. It's very rewarding. So we became a resident company about 4 years ago, and that was very incredibly rewarding. It felt like, finally the hard work had paid off, and that we were being really embraced and recognized. And we got our name on the building, which is really exciting. And it's been a roller coaster ride. It's also wonderful to look at the other resident companies and marvel the fact that we are placed in that same kind of company. They are amazing theater companies that I've admired for a long time, and I should say not just theater companies, Arizona Opera, and then Center Dance Ensemble are not theater companies. So, but to be placed with those kind of professional level companies is just an honor.
Right. So let's go back to talking about you, Chris.
Oh, my favorite topic.
I know. When I asked you about directing, you said, well, that wasn't your first love. So is acting your first love?
Oh, yes, of course.
Tell us about that.
Okay.
About acting?
About you and acting. What have you done? What's your history with that?
Not as much as I would like to. Running a theater company, being an artistic director takes a lot of time. It's kind of like directing. It's very hard to get out there and get on the boards. I've acted a fair amount with iTheatre, which is always good. But I always worry that, the perception is, oh, well, he's the artistic director. He can cast himself in anything. So I don't often do that. And also because I'm a member of Actors Equity, the professional union for stage actors and stage managers, I have to pay myself under contract. And so sometimes that's financially not possible either, especially in the early years of the company. I wasn't able to act as much as I had hoped starting a company that I would be able to. And then what's even better though is when I can carve out the time to go act for somebody else in another company. And then that way I'm just worrying about acting and not selling tickets or what the posters look like or where I'm going to get the costumes. So occasionally I've gotten to do that. I've been directed by Judy out at Theatre Works in a play called Doubt. And then I also did another show there called Accomplice that same season, which was a lot of fun. I got to do, a couple of years ago, I did a play, I was in a play called Steady Rain with Actors Theatre in their very last season that they were around, which was, Judy mentioned, that was the company she was artistic director of, Actors Theatre of Phoenix. And then I was supposed to do this damn pandemic. I was supposed to play Mark Rothko in Red for Black Box Phoenix in this past May. And of course that show got canceled. And so I didn't get to do that role. Hopefully down the road somewhere in the future, I will be able to do that role because it's an incredible, incredible two-hander play. So if I could, you know, all things being considered, I'd much rather be acting than doing anything else.
Okay. Yes, and Doubt was a wonderful experience. I absolutely adored directing Chris, and I loved the show itself. And you know, anyway, it's a very fond memory for me as well. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't ask about the latest addition to your family. Now, I know Chris loves theater. He does it magnificently. But when we talk about this new little girl, his eyes light up. So can you talk a little bit about Amelia Rose?
Yes, my granddaughter. She's now just over 2. She turned 2 at the end of June. Judy and Mary got to meet her just before we started here. She is, what can I say, fantastic. It's an incredible experience being a grandfather. I never realized what that was like, and that all of the painfulness of raising a child would lead to that almost makes it worth it. My daughter, Michaela. So, and also luckily, you know, they live in town, so we get to see them pretty regularly. A lot of times she is over and we get to babysit her while parents go grocery shopping or what they need to do, the errands that they need to run. And she kind of runs the show over here. She's also fascinated with my tool area. I have like a shed that has a workbench and all my tools on it. And since she was a little thing, she would sit on my workbench and pull down the tools, pull down the wrenches, and play with those things. And so she's just fascinated with really anything kind of mechanical. It's just a joy to watch her develop, because you can really watch her grow and change each time you see her. Whereas when you're raising them, it's one forest fire to the next that you're putting out, and you don't really get to enjoy those moments of discovery and wonder.
It's true. It's very different. My own kids, I was just terrified that I was doing it wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was, but your grandkids, it's just like a gift, you know.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, because you get to give them back.
There's that. Yeah.
You know.
Oh my gosh.
So Chris, during all of this time of pandemic, what are you doing? What's keeping you busy? What do you enjoy doing other than, I know, spending time with Amelia? Oh
yeah, well, I try. Everything stops when Amelia is here. It just stops. I don't try and do anything. We have been doing a lot of gardening. We've the last couple of years we've had a garden. We have about a 400 square foot garden, which is a good size, 20 by 20. And this year we had our garden, and it was kind of perfect timing because we had just put it in early March, and then everything shut down mid-March. And so it was, you know, we'll spend the time on our house, on our yard, and in our garden. So we've been doing that. I put up 80 jars of various types of grape jelly, because we have 2 grape vines that really produce this year a lot of fruit. And so I did a lot of jelly making. You know, and then gardening. We have a lot of tomatoes, cucumbers, broccoli. We put in Brussels sprouts this year. Yeah, that was a Rosie thing. They didn't do all that well. I had nothing to do with it, honestly, at all. They just didn't grow. And then we also put in beets. I never knew that you could grow beets in Arizona, but if you plant them early enough, and I guess we just barely did because we got a fairly significant crop of beets from what we planted. So we had beets for probably about 2 weeks, late March and early April. So we're going to try and plant those a little sooner next year, earlier in the year, because they don't like the heat and hot weather. Then what else did we plant? Tomatillos, green beans, and I think that's it this year.
It's amazing. I don't know, Mary, if you remember, but last year we used to get free stuff from Chris's garden.
Yes. All the time. I loved it.
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
we had we planted a lot of lettuce last year, and so you guys got a lot of that lettuce too.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And I have to come by and get your jelly sometime because I want to try that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, anyway, Chris has been keeping the lights on and the sound up and lunchtime theater running smoothly for, well, actually we're going into our 20th season. So many of those seasons. And I don't know, and I hope I tell you enough that I don't know what we would do without him. He has been, oh wait, I think he made a mistake in 2009. And I think he missed the light cue in 2014.
I thought you'd forgotten about those.
Sorry.
We'll just pass over it. We won't discuss it again.
Obviously, I'm getting fired. Yeah.
But the truth is that where lunchtime theater folk, or what any theater folk are concerned, Chris is the dream technical director. So thank you, Chris. Thank you for all you do for us, for lunchtime theater, and for the art world in Phoenix. And thank you for doing this interview. And Mary, thank you for all that you do, and also for being a part of this. And thank you for watching us, all of you out there in virtual lunchtime theater land. Stay tuned for our next interview, and please stay safe and stay cool, and hopefully we'll see you back at the theater sooner than later. Bye-bye.